through the General Secretary.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, thank you.
Please try to take a seat. We are about to start. Please try to take a seat.
I wish the lighting here could be.
Yeah. I see that there are 1 or 2 tables or more actually available in the front here. If anyone wants to come front, that will actually help us in terms of our visibility to be able to see you. So if anyone wants to come and take a seat here, any group can come together and take a table. I think at least 3 tables are available.
As you're gathering, if you take note of the notice on the board that the document you will need for this next session is available at the back of the hall.
Right, I would appreciate the people in the back, if you could take a seat, that will help us. As we begin now into the next session, I just want to say 2 things that we didn't do earlier. The first thing is that you would have seen that there was supposed to be a report from the nominating committee earlier in the morning, but that didn't take place, of course, only because the nominating committee has indicated they need more time to do the work. So they will be giving their first report tomorrow in the scheduled time. The second thing I want to make as a point is that when we did refer the documents to the discernment groups, we pointed out that there will be 3 questions in the groups, of a few questions in the groups that will be looked at, instead of the documents in the working papers. And what we should have done ideally is to actually have sought the permission of the council to say that that was in agreement, that we should put the questions to the discernment group instead of the material in the working book. So we do want to apologize for that. It was an oversight in the fast way of doing business.
Jerry, some people have this document floating around, so just refer that when you start the conversation, it has to have the words, the report of the drafting committee, at least in the English document.
All right. There is a document available for this session. If you haven't got a copy, just put your hands up and the steward will try to reach you so that they can see you need it. Stewards, I do see some hands here in the front for the document. Please, can you get it to them? Right, folks, we are now moving into our second decision session, and we will proceed in terms of how we use the consensus model. Keep your hands up and the stewards will get to you to give you a copy of the document. The document will also appear on the screen. So we move into our second decision session, and this time we're going to be looking at the reports and proposals from our conversations on justice and gender justice. Is it still there? No. No. I'm going to invite Lisa from the drafting group to take us through this document.
Thank you, Mr. President. The drafting committee received reports from 13 of the 17 groups. Most groups were able to address themselves to most of the proposals. At both meetings, the drafting team received many comments that indicated delegates did not have a clear understanding of the material before them, and there was even, in some cases, a discrepancy in documents. It is not the role of this report to answer all of those questions, so we commend taking questions for clarification in the listening session before proposals go to the discernment groups.
Lisa, before we go to the proposals itself, can we just pause for prayer?
Oh, please.
Chris will lead us.
Living God, let us feel the breath of your Spirit move through us. Living God, visit upon us wisdom. Living God, help us open our eyes to connect with those around us, so that the discernment that we are about to undertake be full and complete in our intention to move forward with your will. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. So first, we will address ourselves to the Justice Task Force proposals. Proposal number 1 on justice. The primary areas that will drive the justice work of the WCRC will be economic justice, ecological justice, gender justice, and inclusive communities. The reports received indicated overwhelming support for the language used in Proposal 1. There were some suggestions offered by group members for additional words that had particular relevance in their context. To add, engage in dialogue concerning justice for the unborn. To add, socio-political and racial justice. Number 3, to request definition of inclusive communities. A few groups identified a desire for a definition of inclusive communities. This is another example of the drafting team receiving feedback requesting clarification of terms. The drafting team considers that the lists in many proposals are not intended to be exhaustive and do not preclude action upon additional items prior to the next General Council. Additionally, given the wide consensus for the proposal as it was submitted, the drafting team recommends no alterations in this proposal. So the proposal is recommended to be taken up as originally presented.
What is before us is the original proposal, number 1. Can I get an indication of how you feel about this? Please, I think the lighting needs to be improved here. Can you please work on the lights? Put the lights on and leave them on, please. Yes, we do need some lights here, really. How do you feel about this? Can I get an indication? Can you help me? I'm not seeing any blue. I'm not seeing any blue. Right. Thank you very much. It is carried. We agree on consensus. Proposal 2.
Proposal 2. The new International Financial and Economic Architecture, NFIA, initiative will be a central priority for the WCRC in collaboration with our ecumenical partners. The WCRC will broaden the scope and breadth of NFIA to include macroeconomic and ecological questions and work towards imagining alternatives to the current dominant economic system. There was wide disparity among the groups. Some groups showed strong agreement, while others did not. The bulk of the groups noted discomfort with this proposal due to a lack of understanding of NFIA. There were several remarks that were submitted. A suggestion to add the names of the current ecumenical partners, Council for World Mission, Lutheran World Federation, and the World Council of Churches. A suggestion to change a central priority to one of the central priorities. And third, a discomfort with the word imagining, perhaps replaced with exploring or realizing to make it more concrete, or to remove imagining toward an alternative. A note that there cannot be consensus when the concept is not understood. And finally, gaps between what the WCRC is doing and member churches having knowledge of it. Where a proposal uses general language, the drafting team considers this preferable to long lists. Some comments indicated a misreading of the proposal. Some were ideas that did not seem to sharpen the proposal in any helpful way. Notwithstanding these comments, it is the recommendation of the drafting committee that the proposal be taken up as it has been submitted.
Thank you, Lisa. Again, we are sticking with the original proposal. Can I get an indication of how you feel about it? I see one blue card. Am I right in seeing a blue card there? Okay, those who have a blue card, would you wish to speak? Microphone number 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think, I don't know what is a central priority. I think it's a strange word. We have a priority or more priorities, so I would suggest an amendment that we talk about one of the priorities. And at a certain point of the discussion, I want to add a proposal, but that is when it's appropriate to you.
Well, I'll just test the first thing in terms of suggesting that we change the words initiative will be one of the priorities.
Yes.
Let's see how you feel about that. I see some blue cards. Do you wish to speak? Blue card? Number 2, are you wanting to speak to this one?
I actually just had a point of concern about process.
Okay.
I'm Bethany Wynn from the United Church of Christ in the United States. I will be speaking in English. Just a point of concern about the timing between reading these things that we just received and asking for a show of cards for translation purposes and just to give people a moment to process and ingest. Maybe waiting for 30 seconds before asking for how people feel about it would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, certainly. Thank you for that. Right. That proposal, that change is before us again. Initiative will be one of the priorities. Let me see again how you feel about that. I'm not seeing any blue cards. I'm seeing one blue card in the far. Do you wish to speak? And I'm seeing some in the back. Anybody wishes to speak, please go to a microphone. If you don't wish to speak, then can I ask you for consent so that we can move on? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we have accepted the change. Lisa, can you continue? Did you say you wanted to do something else? Jan Kerr, did you say you wanted to do something else? Because now is the time to speak. No, you're not parliamentary.
I said it when it's appropriate to you. At the end of the proposals, I want to add other proposals, but
okay, at the end.
I don't know whether it's now the time.
All right. Well, before us now is the proposal with the slight change, and I'm going to put the proposal in its entirety to you. How do you respond? Please indicate with your cards. I see there is consensus on this one. Let's proceed, Lisa.
Thank you. Proposal number, so we're done with 2?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Proposal number 3. The WCRC will initiate conversations between member churches on global systems of oppression, concentrating on the specific ways in which empire changes who we are and the contexts in which we live. This will include a recognition that while some of our churches have benefited from empire, many others have deeply suffered the consequences. Resources should be produced collaboratively with regions and member churches to enable churches and communities to resist empire and to live faithfully as disciples in this context. Churches should be able to present themselves as beacons of change and alternative communities in a context that crushes life. Some groups reached full consensus. Other groups had divided opinions about the proposal. The most frequent cause for concern was the meaning of empire and a feeling that it was not a useful term in some settings. Based upon some comments submitted, the drafting team considers that by taking up a number of suggestions, it will enable a higher level of support without undermining the spirit of the original proposal. A particular comment was made that it is hoped that the economic justice can start within the WCRC itself, looking for a just contribution system for membership and programs that can be held by the churches by direct information and involvement. The drafting team offers this feedback to the Justice Core Group for its consideration in the future. And so the drafting team suggests a new proposal, number 3. The General Council of the WCRC resolves that the WCRC will, with the guidance of the Accra Confession, concentrate on the specific ways in which empire changes who we are and the contexts in which we live. This will include a recognition that while some of our churches have benefited from empire, many others have deeply suffered its consequences. Existing resources should be cataloged and new resources produced collaboratively with regions and member churches to enable churches and communities to live faithfully as disciples in their context. And we offer that to the body.
I'm going to give you a pause just to get your thoughts around it. A new proposal is before us, which has some changes from the comments that have come from the discernment groups. How do you feel about the proposal before us? Please indicate with your cards. I don't see any blue cards. Is there? If you have a blue card, would you like to speak? Go to a microphone. Is there somebody at number 3? No. If you have a blue card, you can go through a microphone. Yes, microphone number 2.
I'm looking at the last line, and communities to live faithfully as disciples in their context. Disciples of who?
Of Christ, I would imagine?
It should be mentioned. It should be mentioned.
You would like to include those words?
Yes, sir.
I don't think anybody's going to disagree on this one. How do you feel about this? Thank you. Disciples of Christ, microphone number 3.
Johannes Büker von der Lippischen Kirche. Ich spreche auf Deutsch.
Give us a second to get our microphone headphones out.
Ich habe immer noch ein Problem mit dem Begriff Empire, der an 2 Stellen auftaucht und wo für mich nicht klar ist, was er bedeutet. Obwohl er im Accra-Bekenntnis auftaucht, denke ich, ist es nicht hilfreich, wenn man einen Begriff nimmt, der erst durch ein ganzes Bekenntnis erklärt werden muss. Darum würde ich da um einen präziseren Begriff bitten.
All right, you're asking for some clarity on the term empire. You wish to speak?
Yes, thank you.
Whilst you're doing that, can I ask somebody from the Justice Working Group to come forward to help us to respond to some of these questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. Hannah North, Presbyterian Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand. I will be speaking in English. I just have a point of concern about applause when we are operating business, especially moving into some controversial topics that may come up. I would appreciate it if we could hold our applause after somebody has spoken or after a decision has been reached as to not offend anyone.
Thank you very much for that. You have heard that. Not to respond in terms of a process when we are still discussing something, that would be very much accepted. Amiga, you want to give a response to the question on clarity of the definition of empire?
Thank you, Moderator. We're just conferring here that in the justice paper that's in the workbook, empire is talked about a lot. In the Accra Confession that we've all been speaking about as one of the basic confessions, it's spoken about a lot. I just fear that if we start defining empire among 700 delegates, we'll never get there. I'm not sure if that's helpful or not helpful. But it's systemic oppression that brings together the several spaces that are economic, that are militarized, that are cultural, that are social, that are religious, that are patriarchal, in oppression and marginalization of the majority of 2/3 of the earth, people, and creation. Now, as I say that, some questions will arise. So I think let's read the documents and the Accra Confession and many other spaces and work that other denominations have done on the question of empire. Thank you.
Thank you, Amiga. She's making the point that much has been written about this and the definition has been given in many of the documents that have been produced. I'm not seeing anybody else at the microphone. I'm going to put this proposal before us again in its changed form with the inclusion of the words disciples of Christ. I want to see how you feel about it. Please indicate with your cards. I'm not seeing any blue cards. Is there a blue card there? No. I can see a blue dress. Thank you very much. This is agreed by consensus. Unanimous. Let's move on. I think everybody's going to get a chocolate afterwards. Let's move on to Proposal 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. Proposal number 4. The WCRC will continue its advocacy to international forums and organizations, especially through collaboration with the PCUSA and other ecumenical offices in the United Nations, to present concerns around economic and ecological injustices, militarization, peace and reconciliation, escalating xenophobia and fundamentalisms. An immediate opportunity comes to write a letter on behalf of our community, representing 80 million Christians around the world, to the oncoming meeting of the G20, reminding the most powerful countries of the world of their responsibilities to ensure life and justice for every person in the world. Several groups reached full consensus on Proposal 4. There were several comments submitted, and other groups and situations were suggested to be named. Refugees, along with xenophobia, human trafficking, homophobia, hate crimes against minorities, indigenous peoples, regretting that the emphasis has been lost on this in the last 7 years. Clarification as needed on the time span and scope of these recommendations. The drafting team is taking up the suggestions of the discernment groups in an altered proposal, and deletions are struck through and additions underlined. The WCRC will continue its advocacy to international forums and organizations, especially through the collaboration with existing partners and other ecumenical offices in the United Nations, to present concerns that will include, but not be limited to, economic and ecological injustices, militarization, peace and reconciliation, escalating xenophobia and fundamentalisms. And then a new start to the second part of the proposal. The General Council of the WCRC resolves that a letter be written on behalf of our community, representing 80 million Christians around the world, to the oncoming meeting of the G20, reminding the most powerful countries of the world of their responsibilities to ensure life and justice for every person in the world. And if I may just make one point of explanation, that it was indeed a PCUSA member in one of the groups that suggested the change to existing partners. And I have checked with our UN representative, and that is not something he would seek to fight.
I'm giving you time deliberately, obviously, for translation purposes. Right. The changed and improved proposal is in front of us. Could you indicate how you feel with your cards? All right. I see a blue card, and I see somebody wanting to stand in microphone number 3 to speak. Please go ahead.
Bruce Gillette from the Presbyterian Church USA. I will speak in English.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I would respectfully...
Sorry, I just want to say one more thing. Thank you for following the order here in terms of name, the church you're coming from, and the language you're going to speak. I want to have one more inclusion, that when you do speak, you will tell us whether you're a delegate or not.
I'm a delegate.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. If you could go back to the text on the screen. I don't need to see myself, but I would like the delegates to see the text. Where it says that a letter be written in relation to the G20 meeting coming up, I respectfully request an addition, an amendment to that, where it says, reminding the most powerful countries of the world their responsibilities to ensure life, justice for every person in the world, semicolon, including supporting the Paris Climate Change Agreement. As many of you are aware, the President of the United States recently withdrew our support for that. We would encourage the nations of the world to encourage our President, the churches around the world to encourage the churches in the United States to work for that. We're all in this together, and the Paris Climate Change Agreement is significant for the life and justice of every person as well as God's creation.
Thank you. So we are including words after the sentence, with including supporting the climate change agreement. How do you feel about that? I see one blue card. Oh, it's a quick change, wrong card, okay. If there's no blue cards, blue card, would you wish to speak? Microphone, please. Can you, microphone number 2.
Thank you. My name is Robert Waihenya from the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. And looking at that proposal as it is, and as it was the concern of many, there is the omission of the human trafficking. And as we know from Africa, this is a growing problem. And unless we have it highlighted and clearly indicated as one of a big problem we are having in Africa, it risks being pushed to the periphery. So it is my humble request that as we talk about economic and ecological injustices, we also include human trafficking among those highlighted as important issues to be looked into and addressed by the WCRC.
Okay, so you're suggesting to take what you're saying, after maybe ecological injustices, we can add human trafficking.
Human trafficking.
How do you feel about that? Can I get an indication? I see some blue. Is that a blue card? No? No? If there's a blue card, would you like to speak? On this one? Are you wishing to speak on this on number 3?
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
I will speak in Spanish. Mi nombre es Roberto Cavalcante de la Iglesia Presbiteriana Unida de Brasil. Yo pido perdón porque era una cuestión muy pequeña si comparada con otras que fueron habladas, pero en español está escrito asociados actuales. En inglés estaba existing. No sé si es importante, pero cuando dice actuales quiere decir que los próximos no van a estar en colaboración. No sé si en inglés es necesario decir existing. Podría decir en colaboración con los asociados, todos o que están o que van a venir. Es una cuestión pequeña, pero me pidieron que hablara. Gracias.
Before we go there, can I first deal with this other one? I was testing for the inclusion of the words human trafficking. Can I get an indication again of how you feel about the inclusion of that word, those words? Thank you. We have consensus on that. You are suggesting that we remove the word current.
Existing.
Existing.
In Spanish, it was current. In here would be existing in English text.
So what do we do?
He wants to remove the word existing in case there are new partners in the future.
All right, he wants to remove the word existing in case there are new partners in the future. How do you respond to that? How do you feel about that? Removing the word existing. I'm not seeing any blue cards. Is there a blue card? Would you wish to speak? Yes, microphone number 4.
Yes, my name is Denise Liesch from the Uniting Church in Australia, and I'm speaking in English. It just seems to me that the intent of the sentence there is about the very particular ways in which these issues have already been raised and that we wish to continue to do so through the same channels. And therefore, to speak of existing partners addresses that very particular question, and that if we remove existing, then it becomes very vague as to what we're actually intending to say. And I wonder whether we then would need to restructure the entire sentence.
Think so? Lisa, you want to respond to that? Do you think that is the case?
I would say it was the intent of the drafting team not to change the fact that it is changing from one already identified member church to the existing. So I don't think it would be a change to say we're going to add additional partners to the last speaker's point, I believe. We tried to keep the same intent, just removing the name and having it be the existing partner that we currently have. So I think that...
Would you think the last speaker indicated that if you took out the word existing, it will change the structure? Do you think
I would agree with that.
All right, then I think what we're going to have to do is park this over so that work can be done on it and brought back to us, because we haven't got the time to actually work with structure. Are you able to suggest what we can do on the floor at this moment, or do you need some time for it?
What I understood from the speaker who desired to remove the word current, then we would have to test the will of the body of that to see if they want to change what would be substantive change between acknowledging that we already have a current partner that we're working with, or to say we want to change it to having additional partners. So I would think my own for process would be that we would want to make sure that the body wants to make that change or not.
I think we did indicate that there was a growing acceptance in terms of the word.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Then
was
we would-
accepted that there was a sense of saying, yes, we did actually have consensus on that we should change the word.
Existing. Okay, then we would park it. But, Mr. President, I have one other question. We never actually dealt with the inclusion of the Paris Climate Agreement, I don't believe. I think we moved ahead to other parts, so I'm not sure where you want to go with that at this point. But there is another speaker.
Okay, microphone number 3.
Ok, merci Monsieur le Président. Je suis Georges, je viens de Madagascar, Église de Jésus-Christ de Madagascar. Yeah. Nous voulons donc... oui. Ok. Merci Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais... je viens de Madagascar, je suis de l'Église de Jésus-Christ de Madagascar. Je voudrais ajouter dans cette proposition, vous savez, dans le monde, surtout en Afrique aussi, il y a le problème des drogues. Et ça ravage les jeunes, même les enfants en Afrique. Je vois même ici des gens qui sont drogués et qui deviennent, je ne sais pas quoi. Donc, nous les chrétiens, nous communions, est-ce que nous n'allons pas parler un peu de ces, beaucoup, mais pas un peu, de ces problèmes de drogue et l'alcoolisme. Donc, je voudrais qu'on ajoute dans notre proposition la lutte contre l'alcoolisme et la drogue, l'expansion de la drogue dans tout le monde en tant que chrétien. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Okay, there is a suggestion that we include the fight against alcohol and drugs. How do you feel about that? Could you indicate with your cards? I am seeing a lot of blues on that.
If I may, Mr. President?
Yes.
This is the reason for the inclusion in the middle of that first paragraph, where it says that will include and not be limited to, because as noted in my commentary, our commentary, there are other parts of the list that are not included, refugees, human trafficking, that we have included, but some of the others. So that was the reason why we tried to say this is not an exhaustive list, but we know that these are things that we can be working on.
Okay, those words not limited to is to actually, it's an indication of accepting that there are various other things that can be included. Is that speaker in microphone number 3 wanting to speak to this? I just want to test that again now. Having listened to what Lisa has just said to us, the inclusion of those words, alcohol and drug, if you want it included, please indicate how you feel about this. Inclusion? Right, I see there's blues, majority blues. For those of you who have a orange card, are you prepared to give us consent to move on? Okay, thank you. Speaker number 3? Yeah, we're coming back to that.
Vengo de la Iglesia Presbiteriana de Guatemala y voy a hablar en español. Señor Presidente, quisiera pedir que en el punto de lo que se estaba proponiendo de parte del representante de la Iglesia de Brasil pudiera ser tomado en esta propuesta y que se incluya en el párrafo donde dice las que están actualmente y otras que se incluirán. Esa es mi propuesta.
Mr. President, as I looked at that again, I would want to check it with the body, but as I read it again, I think partners would allow for both if that would be the will. It could be current partners or it could be additional. So if you want to check if that still makes sense.
Are you suggesting that we just leave out the word existing and stick with partners?
Yeah, I'd like the body to weigh in on that, but I think that could be considered.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Let's see how we feel about this. The suggestion is that we leave the word existing out and just use the word partners alone. I see there's agreement on this. It's unanimous. Thank you. Microphone number 2.
President Bill Thomas, United Church of Canada. I'll be speaking English and I am a delegate. I understood probably about 5 minutes ago the decision was that we were going to park this particular proposal and move on because you thought that it was making a substantive change. If that's true, then I think that we can probably move on.
We did not agree on that. We did not agree on parking it. It was my suggestion, but we had further conversations and decided to move on. But now that Lisa has made a suggestion and it has been accepted, because I was getting worried about the text and the need to restructure a text, and we can't do that here on the floor. But seeing that you have actually said we can leave out existing and stay with partners, it leaves the sentence well. It's quite well contained, which means we don't have to park it or to refer it at this point in time. So thank you for that, but that's where the conversation has evolved. I want to bring to you now in terms of its entirety. If you look again at the proposal, the word existing is now demitted. We've lost the word, so it's only partners. We've included after ecological injustices, human trafficking. And then at the end of the paragraph of the proposal, we including supporting the Paris Climate Change Agreement. The Paris Agreement. Right, we had agreed on that already. So let's just see how we feel about this in its entirety. Can you indicate with your cards? I see 2 blue cards. Is that blue card? Would you wish to speak? Microphone number 2.
Richard Dawson, moderator, Presbyterian Church of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I am a delegate. I speak in English. I simply want to ask through you, this body, whether we truly believe that it is the G20 nations or organisations' responsibility to ensure prosperity and justice for all. Certainly it is their duty to respect it, but it seems to me it's almost a giving away of our duties to be at least partly involved in that task by appearing to claim that it is their responsibility alone to ensure those things, and I'd prefer that word to be changed to respect. Thank you.
Respect, I believe.
Okay, which word was going to be changed to respect?
Where it says responsibilities to ensure be replaced responsibility to respect.
Responsibility to respect. How do you feel about that? Let's see your indication. Blue cards there. Would you wish to speak? Blue cards? Anybody with a blue card wishes to speak? Yes, please. Microphone number 3.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily McGinley. I am from the Presbyterian Church USA. I'll be speaking in English, and I am a delegate. I actually do think that it is our elected leaders to ensure to the greatest of their ability life and what's the other word? What's the other word? I don't have it in front of me. Life and justice for their constituents. Whether or not they actually can is up for debate, but it is their responsibility to seek that and for us to continue to hold them accountable to that.
So you're saying we stick with the word ensure?
That's right. Thank you.
All right. Let's test this again. I don't see any other speakers. The suggestion is that we leave the word ensure and we don't go with respect. How do you feel about that? Can you please indicate? Yeah, okay, I see. Blue cards, any blue cards wishes to speak? All right, I'm going to test this one more time. Those who support that we leave the word ensure, please indicate with your cards. And obviously those who don't, you're going to show that you don't. I see a few blue cards. I'm seeing much more orange. If no one wishes to speak, then those with the blue card, can I ask you to give us your consent to move on? Thank you. Thank you. It is agreed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. We move on to gender justice proposals. Proposal number 1, and we'll take these two together. That the General Council adopt the Declaration of Faith on Women's Ordination. And number 2, that the General Council of the WCRC directs the Executive Committee to produce and adopt a gender policy, and that they collaborate with the regions to foster and encourage the use of this policy as the practice of the whole communion of churches. These proposals received strong support in most groups from which the drafting team received reports. Some comments were submitted. In some contexts, women means married women. This proposal is difficult in one context due to cultural reasons. In one group, some delegates declared that they will not ratify the Declaration of Faith on Women's Ordination. Equal partnership, adding the importance of women in the organization of the church and in decision-making, not restricting this to ordination only, to remove and adopt in point 2 of the proposal, recommendation to add an additional point that the WCRC Executive Committee and senior staff should represent the communion's commitment to gender equity and shall be at least 50% female by the next General Council. The drafting team is recommending the original wording of the original proposal and the addition of an extra clause based upon the comments of the discernment groups. And I should say there were several who had added this in their committee reports. Additions underlined. Proposal 1, that the General Council adopt the Declaration of Faith on Women's Ordination. And Proposal 2, that the General Council of the WCRC directs the Executive Committee to produce and adopt a gender policy and that they collaborate with the regions to foster and encourage the use of this policy as the practice of the whole communion of churches. And Part B, this is the addition, that the WCRC Executive Committee and the senior staff should represent the communion's commitment to gender equality and shall be at least 50% female by the next General Council.
Thank you, Lisa. We are now with Proposal 1. We are looking at Proposal 1, that we adopt the Declaration of Faith on Women's Ordination. Could you indicate with your cards how you feel about this? I see one blue card. Right, people with blue cards, with one blue card I see. Okay, with a blue card, I see two more down that way. Do you wish to speak? Please go to a microphone. Microphone number 4.
I will speak in French. Monsieur le Président, je m'appelle Nourou Anta, je suis déléguée et je représente l'Église protestante réformée évangélique de France. Dans notre union d'église, nous n'avons pas de problème en ce qui concerne le ministère pastoral féminin, mais je pose la question par rapport aux autres églises dans la WCRC qui n'ont pas adopté cela. Adopter une confession de foi, pour moi, ça veut dire que j'y adhère. Donc, est-ce qu'en adoptant cette confession de foi, en disant que c'est une confession de foi, est-ce que par là, nous allons exclure ceux qui ne sont pas en accord avec ce qui est écrit?
Microphone number 3.
Soy el pastor Dani Ramírez Celis, delegado de la Iglesia Nacional Presbiteriana de México. Voy a hablar en español. Antes de hacer mi observación, quisiera decir que no se tradujo en español la participación anterior, así que sí me gustaría saber qué fue lo que dijeron porque no supimos los que hablamos español. Pero quisiera presentar...
Hold on, please. There's no yes, I stopped just precisely to ask them that they would start translating for us. Interpret. He was. Okay. So what do we go back with? I'm a bit confused.
Good, just checking, Mr. President. Si la pregunta, hermano, es que hay que repetir la intervención anterior porque no ha captado, ¿cierto?
No se tradujo en los traductores al español.
Ok. ¿Estás esperando la traducción del anterior comentario?
Pues para no decir, pero yo puedo hacer mi presentación también y quizás después podamos oír esta.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Señor Presidente, quisiera presentar a nombre de la Iglesia nuestra discrepancia. ¿Puedo hablar? ¿O están traduciendo?
No. Yeah. You speaking in Spanish?
Okay, gracias. Quiero presentar a nombre de la Iglesia Nacional Presbiteriana nuestra discrepancia a la adopción de esta declaración de fe sobre la ordenación, ya que nuestra Iglesia, en su reflexión teológica bíblica, no hemos encontrado para todos los oficios ordenados una justificación real para hacer esto. Somos una iglesia que representa a casi 1.800.000 miembros y con muchos presbiterios y una gran cantidad de mujeres trabajando en la iglesia. Lamentamos, ¿verdad?, la situación que en otros países se dan acerca del trato a las mujeres. Sin embargo, en nuestra iglesia no es así. No es una cuestión cultural solamente, creo. Pero bueno, nosotros no podemos aceptar, ¿verdad?, puesto que no tenemos estamos seguros, ¿verdad?, que para todos los oficios, no en todos, pero para algunos de los oficios encontramos no una justificación válida para poder ordenarlos. Sin embargo, no es la misma situación que viven nuestras mujeres a las que se vive en otros países y entendemos eso y toleramos. Sin embargo, adoptar una declaración de fe para nosotros significaría quizás un problema mayor de lo que ya estamos sufriendo en la actualidad con solamente saber que algunas iglesias y que la comunión en su gran mayoría acepta la ordenación. Nosotros como Iglesia Nacional Presbiteriana de México de alguna manera también se nos ha segregado por nuestra región por pensar diferente. Y entonces si hay una declaración tácita de fe, ¿verdad?, que dice que vamos hacia allá, eso sería un problema para nosotros. Gracias.
Microphone number 4.
Mr. President, I will speak in Spanish. If you allow to speak, because I don't have a voice.
Yes, I will allow you to speak.
Mi nombre es Darío Barolín y soy secretario de AIPRAL y quisiera expresar mi disconformidad con lo recientemente expresado, ya que la región de AIPRAL en ningún momento segregó o discriminó a la Iglesia Nacional Presbiteriana de México. Quiero dejar bien en claro porque me parece que eso falta a la verdad y creo que los delegados deben conocer la verdad si quieren tener un punto de vista claro. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. There was somebody in microphone number 2.
My name is Stephen Kendall. I'm with the Presbyterian Church in Canada. I'm a delegate, and I speak in English.
Please
I'm pleased that we have an opportunity to adopt this declaration. And there's just one point for accuracy in the context, which is part of the declaration. I was a delegate to the Uniting General Council as well, and am aware that while the recommendation that went to the Uniting General Council plenary was, as noted, promote the ordination of women and work toward a time when the ordination of women will be binding on the communion, what was actually adopted, and this can be found on page 44 of the minutes, is to promote the ordination of women among its member churches. And just for historic accuracy, I would ask that the context be, that one sentence be amended to reflect what happened at the United General Council.
Would that be okay to allow for that? Okay. Are we okay to allow for that amendment? It's just for the change in the document. That's what he's saying, to correct it. Thank you. I think there's consensus for that. Let's proceed now again. You have heard the conversation. I want to test you again on Proposal 1 of this particular section, that we adopt the Declaration of Faith on Women's Ordination. Just before we go there, let's go there rather. Please indicate how you feel about this. Okay, I see a blue card. I see blue cards. I just want to say that you have an option. For those of you who have blue cards and you are not comfortable to give consent, there is an option that you can record your dissent, and that will be done by the minute clock who's taking notes, taking minutes for us. You can go and speak to Sandy at that table where he's raising his hand, and you can give him that information. Looking at where we see us in terms of the blue cards, I see majority of orange cards. So therefore, at this time, I want to ask that those of you with blue cards, would you give us your consent to move on? If you're not able to give us your consent, then you have the facility of recording it in the minute. Your dissent to be recorded in the minute. Now, I'm not going to allow for us to speak again because I think it is clear in terms of the majority of the numbers of people who are prepared to warm up to this particular proposal. And I think in terms of the numbers that are saying we are cold on this one, I think we have reached consensus, not fully, but those who actually do not want to give the permission for us to move forward can record the dissent. That is the position we're going to be taking on this one. Right.
Mr. President, I would like to just make a comment at this point, if I may. I will chalk it up to the fact that the delegates in the discernment groups had multiple documents and proposals coming from different directions, and the lateness of the hour that the drafting committee met, that actually there are two different places where this proposal 2, in essence, is taken up. And the one is on that page we've just been, and then also that there is another proposal about the gender justice policy on the last page at the top. And there are slight differences between them. So I would like to offer it to you. What would you like to do now? If we take up the second clause of, or the proposal 2, then there might be slight differences from the other. So it's what is the will of the president and the body if we try to harmonize those two, or do you want to take them two separately because they, in essence, are talking about the same thing, but they came to us through the discernment groups in two different places?
I think it is an appropriate place where I can now adjourn.
Okay.
The reason we have to adjourn our meeting now is because the peace prayer takes place at 5 o'clock in town. And we need to get there. And if we don't get moving now, we are not going to make the time. So we will complete the further proposals in our next decision session. Hans, to give us information.
So we should be clear that the people that were asked.
Right. We will be joining one of the famous Leipzig tradition, the peace prayer, which is being conducted since the middle of the 1980s, and it was the peace prayer where the people gathered and moved out of the church with candles and prayers, which was one of the first acts of the peaceful revolution of 1989. We will join in this peace prayer. We will have to move in
we have a word of greeting that we need to take now before we dismiss ourselves from this place. So can the General Secretary please introduce our speaker? Chris?
Thank you very much. I'm calling to the podium Annette Goschus, who comes from the Westphalian Church, which is a united church with Reformed, Lutheran, and United congregations. She was elected praeses of her church in 2011 and is the deputy chairperson of the Council of the EKD, the Evangelical Church in Germany, and we welcome her to bring greetings from both institutions.
Sehr geehrter Präsident Pillay, liebe Schwestern und Brüder, schön, dass Sie mich heute hier in Leipzig willkommen heißen und gut, dass ich jetzt noch reden kann, bevor Sie aufbrechen zum Friedensgebet. Ich richte Grüße aus für die Evangelische Kirche von Westfalen und für den Rat der Evangelischen Kirche in Deutschland. Es ist für uns eine Freude, eine Ehre auch, dass die reformierte Weltgemeinschaft in diesem besonderen Jubiläumsjahr der Reformation bei uns in Deutschland zu Gast ist. Ich stelle an den Anfang ein Zitat Martin Luthers, ein Zitat über die Kirche. In den schmalkaldischen Artikeln schreibt Luther: Es weiß Gottlob ein Kind von 7 Jahren, was die Kirche sei, nämlich die heiligen Gläubigen und die Schäflein, die ihres Hirten Stimme hören. Zumindest die Erwachsenen waren sich, als Luther diese Worte schrieb, schon lange nicht mehr einig darüber, was denn die Kirche sei. Bereits im nächsten Satz polemisiert der Reformator eher verbittert gegen die platten Chorhemden, die langen Röcke und allerlei Zeremonien, die über die Schrift hinaus erdichtet seien. Hat also gerade das neue Hören auf die Stimme des Hirten Christus zur Trennung geführt und zum geringschätzigen Herabsehen auf andere? Und wenn es damals so war, muss es heute auch so sein? Leipzig, liebe Schwestern und Brüder, Leipzig ist für die Generalversammlung der reformierten Kirchen aus aller Welt ein guter Ort. In dieser Stadt wurde im Jahr 1519 mit der Leipziger Disputation unverkennbar deutlich, über dem neuen Verständnis der Rechtfertigung war die Einheit der Kirche zerbrochen, sofern sie darin bestand, die Entscheidungen der Konzilien ungeteilt anzuerkennen und sich dem Primat des Papstes zu beugen. Besagte Leipziger Disputation hat viel zu Martin Luthers Ruhm als unbeugsamem Reformator beigetragen. Dabei war Luther selbst überhaupt nicht glücklich über dieses theologische Streitgespräch. Es habe übel angefangen, äußert er sich in einem Brief, und es sei noch ärger ausgegangen. Und mindestens darin können ihm auch Reformierte zustimmen. Aber was übel anfing und was noch ärger ausging, muss ja nicht zwangsläufig übel weitergehen und auch nicht notwendig arg bleiben. Und ist das, liebe Geschwister, nicht wunderbar? Leipzig als Ort für diese Generalversammlung macht es möglich, dass im 500. Jubiläumsjahr der Reformation auch wir Reformierten übermorgen in Wittenberg die gemeinsame Erklärung zur Rechtfertigungslehre unterzeichnen. Dankbar und froh über den lebendigen Gott, der uns erneuert und verändert. Die Wittenberger Erklärung stellt die konfessionsübergreifende Übereinstimmung in der Rechtfertigungslehre zugleich in den umfassenden Horizont, der uns Reformierten so besonders am Herzen liegt. Gerechtigkeit ist nicht einfach ethische Umsetzung von Rechtfertigung gewissermaßen im Nachgang. Vielmehr ist Gerechtigkeit theologisch in der Rechtfertigung selbst enthalten. So befreit Gottes Gerechtigkeit die Kirche der gerechtfertigten Sünder dazu, dem lebendigen Gott nachzufolgen, ihm nachzufolgen in seiner Mission, allen Menschen Gerechtigkeit zu bringen und ein Leben in Fülle. Nochmal Luther: Es weiß Gottlob ein Kind von 7 Jahren, was die Kirche sei. Ja, da möchte man neidisch werden auf die Kinder oder neidisch womöglich auf Luther, der es dann in allem Streit ja doch immer erstaunlich genau wusste. Und doch ist es mit dem Genauwissen und erst recht mit dem allzu genau Wissen nicht auch so eine Sache? Und sind wir, wenn wir heute weit weniger vollmundig über die Kirche reden und über deren Einheit, sind wir da nicht vielleicht am Ende doch näher an der Wirklichkeit unserer Gegenwart? Gewiss, aber vielleicht auch näher an der theologischen Wahrheit? Johannes Calvin jedenfalls hält es keineswegs für ein Kinderspiel zu wissen, was die Kirche sei. Er warnt sogar davor, es allzu genau wissen zu wollen. Ja, mehr noch, er hält es für gefährlich, auch nur zu meinen, man könnte das genau wissen. Im 4. Buch seiner Institutio schreibt er: Allein Gott ist die Erkenntnis der Kirche zu überlassen, weil seine geheime Erwählung ihr Fundament ist. Also ist die Erkenntnis der Kirche ausschließlich Gottes Sache. Und darin höre ich zuerst eine heilsame Begrenzung. Eine Begrenzung, die es uns verbietet, unseren eigenen Blick und die vielen eigenen Blicke auf die Kirche und unser eigenes Wissen von ihr schon für die volle Wahrheit zu halten und für die ganze Wirklichkeit. Die Erkenntnis der Kirche ist ausschließlich Gottes Sache. Daraus höre ich zweitens auch den Ruf zu einer Entgrenzung, zu einer hoffnungsvollen Entgrenzung. Eine Entgrenzung, die bereit ist, im Blick auf die Kirche viel zu erwarten, sehr viel und viel zu erhoffen, weil sie von Gott alles erwartet und alles erhofft. Eine Entgrenzung, die weniger daran interessiert ist, zu definieren, als vielmehr daran zu öffnen, die weniger daran interessiert ist, sich zu unterscheiden und vielmehr daran zu verbinden. Eine Entgrenzung, die weniger an den Mängeln interessiert ist, an den Fehlern und an den Schwächen, als vielmehr an den geheimnisvollen Gaben der Kirche. Eine Entgrenzung auch der konfessionellen Bünde übrigens, wie sie auf der Generalversammlung 2010 in Grand Rapids in der neuen Verfassung der Weltgemeinschaft anklingt, eine Öffnung hin auf unsere Geschwister in anderen reformatorischen Traditionen, soweit, ich zitiere, soweit die betreffende Kirche dieser Verfassung zustimmt. Als vor 3 Jahren das Büro des Reformierten Weltbundes von Genf umzog nach Hannover in ein gemeinsames Gebäude mit den evangelischen Kirchen der Union, da habe ich halb im Scherz, aber doch mit vollem Ernst kühn prophezeit, wir könnten vielleicht bereits im Jubiläumsjahr 2017 von einer Weltgemeinschaft reformierter und unierter Kirchen sprechen. Nun ja, der Heilige Geist lässt sich Zeit, aber in Ruhe lässt er uns nicht. Er zieht und schiebt uns zärtlich und mächtig. Er liebt und lockt uns hinein in die Wirklichkeit des Geheimnisses Jesu Christi, das doch aus unser Geheimnis und unsere Wirklichkeit ist. Und dieses Geheimnis, nämlich die Erwählung Jesu Christi und die Erwählung aller Menschen in ihm, das verbindet uns längst zu einer Kirche, vor und hinter allem unterscheiden und durch alles unterscheiden hindurch. Erwählung ist die Kraft, die uns zu Erneuerung und Veränderung ruft. Und darum fragt sie auch nach unserem Tun und nach unserem Handeln. Erwählung ist die Gabe, die all unseren vielen Aufgaben vorausgeht. Erwählung, nicht unser Beraten und Beschließen, das ja bisweilen mühsam sein kann. Erwählung und nicht unser Arbeiten und Kämpfen. Erwählung allein begründet die Einheit der Kirche. Sie ist nicht das Rätsel, das wir irgendwann lösen müssten oder könnten. Sie ist und bleibt das Geheimnis, aus dem wir leben. Wir sollen sie suchen, weil sie schon da ist, und wir können sie finden, weil sie uns umgibt. Und wir werden sie erfahren. Wir werden sie erfahren, da, wo wir Kraft des Heiligen Geistes, der uns erneuert und verwandelt, in dieses Geheimnis immer tiefer hineinwachsen, uns hineindenken und mehr noch uns hinein loben und beten im gemeinsamen Zeugnis der Liebe. Und wer weiß, vielleicht wird uns bis zum Jahre 2029, das wären dann 500 Jahre nach dem Marburger Religionsgespräch, vielleicht wird uns dann der Durchbruch geschenkt, sodass wir auf der darauffolgenden Generalversammlung von einer noch weiter erneuerten und verwandelten Weltgemeinschaft sprechen können, von einer Weltgemeinschaft reformierter und unierter und lutherischer Kirchen. Wer weiß? Ich danke Ihnen. Bitte schön.
Thank you so much for the vision of what you've just shared in terms of Reformed and Lutheran. And I think that's the kind of road we are trying to follow ourselves. The Wittenberg Witness is an indication of that. Our partnership with the JDDJ is an indication of that. And who knows that when we start to dream and have visions for that, we certainly are moving closer to what God wants for us. And we certainly hold on to that vision as well and pray that it will happen in God's time. The other thing I would want to place on record is our sincere thanks to your church for your wonderful assistance and contributions to us as the WCRC. You have helped us come into the German context, and even now for this General Council, you have helped us by offering to us 2 of your members to be staffed here to help us with the General Council, and both those people are playing a very, very important role in the function that they are doing here. We want to say thank you so much. We appreciate it. The sooner we get together, the better. Thank you so much. We proceed immediately now to the St. Nicholas Church, where we will have the prayer peace service.
And be assured that at the St. Nicholas Church we will serve dinner. And there are two announcements while you're going. Tonight at 9 o'clock we have a very special organ concert at the St. Thomas Church. We have been to St. Nicholas, the one famous church, and St. Thomas, the church of Johann Sebastian Bach, is the other one. We have a very famous organ concert at 9 o'clock in the afternoon. And people who have to do with mission are tonight invited to the Leipzig Mission, a Lutheran mission organization. It's a selected group, but anyone else who is interested to visit the Leipzig Mission is welcome to do so on Friday afternoon. The director is here. Perhaps he comes up that you can see him, and he can explain you where to find him.